I now present to you part 2 of Mars Industries 1/18th scale Airwolf, polishing a turd, the adventure continues. Time to paint the body. I first start off painting the lower half of the body and tail white. Then I need to mask it off and paint the main color. First thing I notice is that the air intakes for the jet engines are not sculpted where they should be, slightly oversized and lower. This creates a bit of an issue as the white comes up around from the bottom behind the doors and does not go into the air intake area. If you look at the finished model shown on the Kickstarter page, you'll see the white doesn't go up far enough, and this is why. They painted things to line up with an inaccurate model. So you can see on mine, I ran the white into this area. I felt that paint line was important to the look overall. Given the shit show this has been, I wasn't about to spend a bundle getting a special color. Airwolf is supposed to be Phantom Gray Metallic. When I looked it up, it appears that you can get this color, but it doesn't look like Airwolf to me. It's far too silver. I had this can of bronze spray paint and found that looked awfully close to me. Next step is the windows. They came on these little vac-formed panels. First thing you should do is get a pair of styrene cutting scissors like these. You'll be thankful you did. You need to make little cuts with curves, not big straight cuts. One thing I noticed immediately is these awful lines and facets on the windows. Fun fact, vacuum forming actually picks up a lot of detail. These facets were likely because the form they used was 3D printed and was not sanded and smoothed out before being used as the form. Once again, they give almost no clearance at all for these windows. There should be more area outside the visible window where you can apply glue. Furthermore, some windows should have been combined. You could have bridged this center post, for example, and make these two front panels one piece. I normally don't recommend superglue for parts like this because the vapors can fog up the clear plastic. Well, unfortunately, not having enough area to glue means I need the parts to bond fast. So I hold the windows in place and let the superglue run around the edges. After a day of drying, there was some minimum fogging, but a little wiping with a piece of paper towel can get most of it off. Just try not to wipe the painted area. As you've already seen, the magnet pockets are undersized and need dremeled out. Be very careful with installing the magnet in the tail boom. They made the hollow tail way too thin, and thus, when you go to press in the magnet, the entire tail here wants to squeeze in, and you risk breaking it. Grind the pocket too large, and you have to hope that the glue is stronger than the magnetic bond. The magnets to hold on the rocket launcher kind of baffle me. I'm pretty sure the launcher could rotate in the show, which you can't do because they use two little magnets instead of one large magnet. And where they have the two little magnets placed, the launcher sticks out oddly. A single magnet could have solved that too. Nothing should surprise you at this point in the build, though. On to the side guns. First, install the magnets, making sure the polarity works for both weapons and the body panel. And the pockets for the magnets on the gun pods were made twice as deep as the magnet, because of course they were. You can always put a bit of plastic or wood behind the magnets to keep them from sinking too far in. I kind of wish I had. I had to add a sheet of plastic then to the body panels because they weren't thick enough. Okay, let's get these painted up, and if the guns aren't deployed, well, then you have an awful gap here. Next come the landing gear. You can paint these more accurate colors if you like, but I thought they were fine, and my frustration with this kit hinders my ability to give a crap on something minor like this. They included a couple different pin sizes, and you have to figure out what goes where. They're a simple press fit, but make sure to test fit the parts. The head of the pin may not fit properly in the recess for it, and then the side guns won't sit flush on the body. I actually had to drill these pinholes just slightly bigger because the fit was too tight. I installed the gear and sat the model aside for a bit. When I come back, I find this. More uncured resin. I'm not even sure where it came from. There were no more encapsulated areas that I was aware of that drilling the hole bigger should have punctured anything. So I placed a paper towel under the landing gear and just let it ooze for a day. Hopefully this is the last of it because this resin can stain. Believe me, I've had a couple spills. We now go to the removable engine. Did I say removable? Nah, that's just what they told us. I'll get to that in a sec. Previously I mentioned the crooked rectangle that the engine sat on. Looking closely, that's not the case. The one side of the engine itself is crooked. So, there's supposed to be magnets that allow the engine to be removed. Well, there isn't a magnet pocket on the engine. There is one inside the body. However, given that all the magnet pockets are undersized, no one would be able to grind this out when it's inaccessible. And you'd still have to create a pocket on the engine itself, and hope that the two line up. Moving on, time for the interior. So I paint up the rear computer cluster and add the decals. Now, if I had to say something positive about this kit, is that they included plenty of options for the display screens. Now, I don't know what photos were used as reference. I found this one online, and there are some differences that jump out. So, there are two decals that need applied where a frame needs to go over top of it, so the display is recessed. However, this one decal is simply too large for where it needs to go, and so I had to trim it smaller. And gluing these surrounds in will also be difficult because there's very little surface area. It'll be next to impossible to not get glue on the decals. I might just skip this step altogether, as I don't believe it really adds a whole lot to the look. When you're making a toy, essentially, you have to make compromises so the vehicle can interact with figures, right? Right? More on that.